Hi, my name is Carl Smith. I am presently employed here at the Topeka Rescue Mission Distribution Center as a truck driver. I was born in a place called Wiesbaden, West Germany. My dad was in the Air Force, and my mom went over to join him, so I was born over there. Spent 3 years there, and we moved back to Chicago, and where I stayed until I was 18 years old. My parents, who were both very good people, they were married for 50-some years before my dad passed away. He was always a strong influence in my life. We weren't the best of friends, but we weren't the worst of enemies either. So my mom was always a consistent calming factor in our family. I had an older sister and a younger brother, and we got along well. After spending 1 year at a place called Lakeland College in Sheboygan, went to college at a place called Upper Iowa University, got a bachelor's degree in physical education and recreation, dance, and safety. That's what it was called back then. Started teaching in the city of Chicago. But before I taught, I worked as an advocate for juvenile delinquents through Cook County. Then I went into teaching and coaching and started in Chicago. My first year in Chicago was at the high school, and then I was teaching at an elementary school. Got married for the first time in 1978. I was trying to pursue a college coaching career. My wife worked at CNA, a major insurance company in Chicago, and she said she wanted to leave when I got the call to go to Fort Hays State. So I took my son, our son, he was 1.5 years old, and I took him out there to Fort Hays with me, and she decided not to join us. So that broke that marriage up, and I neglected to tell you before that happened, our first child, Cynthia and I's, passed away at 3 months old suddenly. You know, he died, and I think that is when I turned my back on God, and I let the devil come into my life. And the devil that came into my life at that time was in the form of what we called freebase cocaine. I used that probably once or twice a month, and I used it with people who you wouldn't think would use it. They were educators like myself. We'd get together once, twice a month, and we'd put our monies together, and we'd as they say, party for a night or two, and then we'd go back to doing our deal. The Lord had blessed me with a good job. You know, my parents were fairly well off, so I had access to money, and so I could always go and say, hey, I need a loan, and I would always pay it back. So I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is that people would always look at me and say, you know, why you? You know, I would say the same thing too. You know, they think addicts are people who are strung out on drugs or something, or people who are homeless or beat down or in bad situations. Well, they're good people too to get caught up in it. And I believe part of my story is that you don't have to come from bad situations and bad backgrounds to get caught up with the devil. And it's the choices that we make. You know, I lost a lot of good friends because I chose to do a double life. You know, it says in the book of James about being an unstable man. And I was unstable in everything that I did. During the day, I was teaching and doing the things that, you know, society wants you to see you do. But at night, I was running around with any and everybody. I was blessed to have a job. I've had a career teaching and coaching for over 30-some years. And I remember reading in Alcoholics Anonymous big book about a story of a man who had his own business. He had been drinking. And one of his friends told him, hey, if you don't stop drinking, you're gonna lose everything. And so what the man said was, okay, I'll stop, but I'm not gonna quit. I'll stop until I retire. And then once I retire, I'll start drinking again. The story went on to say that within 6 months after the man retired and started drinking again, he died. Well, I pretty much kind of did the same thing. I quit using crack cocaine for quite a few years. You know, Lord blessed me with more opportunities. I Had a chance to be a head coach at a small 2A school in Texas. Was offered in a position at University of Kansas under Mark Mangino to coach outside linebackers under the guise of being a video coordinator. But because of that demon inside of me, every now and then I would, as my friend Bill used to say, I would go back and touch it up just a little bit. And sometimes when I touched it up, I destroyed things. And I lost that job because of that. So when I finally retired, I said, to heck with it. You know, I had a nice bank account. I had, you know, some other properties that, you know, I really don't care about life anymore. I went out and stayed with my daughter out in Hays, Kansas, and I was driving from Hays to Topeka, you know, quite a few times. And I was not doing God's work while I was going back and forth. Because during the day, I was working at a place called Ministries, was a battery plant. And I would go to church, and I worked with Messiah Lutheran Church over there. I had met the pastor, but I wasn't buying into the Jesus thing. You know, I still had a thing in my head from back when my son died in 1982 that I was not going to forget. I chose not to forget. And I was doing the devil's work. I have diabetes, and I've had diabetes since 1994. I didn't take my insulin. I didn't take anything that was supposed to help keep me sane. So I was in bad shape physically. So I went back, recovered, got back on my feet, got to going again, and I came back here in 2015. I was coming back to pay a fine, and I decided to try it one more time. Came to the point where I came to the mission, and after a couple of weeks, and I got my health back a little bit, I started listening to other people here at the mission who were in the servant and training program, knew nothing about it. Talked to Bill Ritchie, who was my advocate at the time, and he told me he was getting ready to retire. So he turned me over to Christian Stringfellow, who took over for him. And Christian and I hit it off real well from the beginning. We'd always have talks, and I could see there was a difference in his spirituality as opposed to mine. I had none, he had a lot of it. And he would always talk to me about it. From the records of my past, and I had skipped my probation officer. So I had to go to spend some time in the Shawnee County Jail and the Ford County Jail. But while I was in jail, Christian told me to read the Bible. And he told me to start in Matthew, read all the way to Revelation, and start in the Old Testament and finish up. And I'm saying, well, why should I do that? He said, well, if you want to know about Jesus, then you need to know about his birth and when he came. And then if you want to know why Jesus was sent, you read the Old Testament. I said, okay. Sounded okay to me. And so that's what I did. And I didn't realize that because I was obedient to what he told me to do, the Lord used me in jail. And my cellmate, kept noticing it up. He says, you always reading that Bible. I said, well, I was told to read the Bible and I'm doing it, He came to me one day, he says, hey man, would you mind leading us in some devotions or something? And we started out with 3 guys and we ended up, I was there for almost 4.5 weeks. And on my last week, we had 17 guys that came and read with us. So it was showing me that, that is where I needed to be. So when I left there, I reconciled with my daughter, and she let me stay at her house in Hays for a week. And then she brought me back to Topeka. I came back into the mission, and that's when I started working on the SID program. Then I heard about the CBLD, the Center for Biblical Leadership Development. Talked with Ms. Dell about it. So I signed up to take the CBLD class, and literally that's what really jump-started me to get on my way. And I haven't turned back since then. The good Lord has blessed me. He has restored my relationship with my kids. He has given me a better way to live. And what I mean by that is I used to judge by how much money I had in my bank account, or how many friends I had, or how big a house I had, or how many cars I had in my driveway. I don't worry about that now. I met Caretha. I always tell her, I was sitting in the lobby and she walked by. She had on some white pants, an orange little flowery top. But I don't know, it's just something about her that struck me. And I just looked at her. And all of a sudden, something said to me, no. So I said, okay. So I didn't pursue her, I didn't say anything. I just watched her from afar. Didn't know that she was doing the same with me. She was going through some things. She and I both gone through some things. And so one day we were just in class, and she was telling her story. She was going through a lifeline as part of her ministry project through the CBLD program. And a lot of things that she had been going through, I had also gone through. And so there was a connection there. So we visited, but our talks were more spiritual. She would give me a scripture, I would read it, I would give her some feedback back on what I was reading. So we just thought about, hey, just let's be our spiritual buddy. So that's what it was, and that's how it started, and that's how it developed. We got married last October the 6th of 2017. So I mean, God is restoring. God is in the restoration business, and as long as we do what He asks us to do and stay under His umbrella, as it were, He'll reward us. Recently, I've been driving the trucks for over a year and a half. Just out of clear blue sky, this is another guy thing. I got a phone call that Miss Dale asked me would I come and visit with her. She had an opportunity for me. I said, sure. And then she mentioned the opportunity of mentoring to the young men in the mission that go through the Dare to Dream program, help them to set up goals and sing how that correlates to helping them to return back to the mission once they leave. And I thought about it because I've been here for 3 years now, a little over 3 years, and I've seen a lot of guys coming and going. I said to myself, I don't ever want to be able to have to do that. But I found out it's not me making that decision, it's He. And if I stay along with God and say, God, what can I do to help you? Then I don't have to worry about going back there, because He will direct my paths, as it says in Proverbs 3, 5, and 7. He will direct my paths, so I don't have to worry about that. I am truly, truly grateful and blessed to be able to be a part of the Topeka Rescue Mission, and not only just the rescue mission, but a part of being instrumental in helping somebody today that can possibly come back and help somebody else later. And if I can do that, if that is what my plan, if that is what God's plan for me is for this day, then I know I've had a good day.